What happens when Hollywood's toughest icon collides with morning television's biggest personality, and everything goes completely off the rails? Viewers were about to witness one of the most explosive celebrity interviews ever aired on live TV. The Good Morning America studio buzzed with its usual pre-show energy as cameras rolled for what was expected to be a simple promotional segment. Sylvester Stallone had arrived to discuss his latest project. But from the moment he settled into the guest chair across from Michael Strahan, an unmistakable tension filled the air. Sly. Great to have you back on the show. Michael began with his trademark smile as he shuffled his notes. Let's talk about this new film. Some critics are calling it a desperate attempt to recapture past glory. How do you respond to that? The question hit like a punch. Stallone's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing as he processed what he had just heard. Pleasantries had been skipped entirely. Excuse me? Stallone replied, his gravelly voice carrying an edge. Desperate. That's how you want to start this conversation. Hey, I'm just asking what people are thinking, Michael countered. You're 78 and still throwing punches on screen. Some people wonder if you know when to hang up the gloves. The audience shifted uneasily. This wasn't the friendly banter they expected from a morning show. Stallone leaned forward, gripping the chair arms. Let me tell you something about Desperate, Michael. Desperate is asking questions like that because you think it makes good television. Desperate is trying to tear down someone who's been entertaining people longer than you've been alive. Michael's smile faltered. I'm just doing my job. These are legitimate questions. Your job. Stallone shot back. Your job is to have a conversation, not ambush a guest who came here in good faith. I've been making movies since you were playing football. I don't need a morning show host lecturing me about career choices. Camera operators glanced nervously at their director. Michael straightened, unprepared for the confrontation. I respect everything you've accomplished, but I have to ask tough questions. That's what journalism is. Journalism. Stallone laughed sharply. From where I'm sitting, sounds like you're trying to make a name for yourself by taking shots at someone who's actually earned their place in this business. I've earned my place too. Sly, I didn't just fall into this chair. Oh really? Because it sure seems like you think controversy equals credibility. You want to talk about my age? Let's talk about experience, about creating characters people still care about decades later. The studio fell silent. Michael's composure cracked as he realized the interview was spiraling. Look, I'm not attacking you. I'm asking questions the viewers want answered. No. You're asking the questions you think will get you noticed. There's a difference. And if you can't see that, maybe you're the one who should rethink career choices. The words landed hard. Michael's face flushed as he struggled to maintain a smile. Stallone stood slowly, casting a shadow over the desk. Coddled, he repeated. You want to talk about being coddled? Coddled is sitting behind a desk asking people about their struggles while you read off a teleprompter. Sit down, Sly. You're making a scene. I'll stand if I want. You started this when you ambushed me instead of doing your job professionally. This should be a conversation between equals, not you talking down to me like I'm some washed-up has-been. Nobody said you were washed up, Michael snapped. But if the shoe fits... The audience gasped. Stallone stepped closer, his voice dropping to a cold whisper. Did you really just say that? On live television? You just made the biggest mistake of your broadcasting career. Are you threatening me? Michael stood as well, voice rising. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm telling you that you crossed a line you can't uncross. You want to talk about shoes fitting? Let's talk about how well arrogance fits you. Let's talk about how you think this desk makes you untouchable. Asterisk producers waved frantically, but neither man acknowledged them. Michael's co-hosts stared, frozen. Asterisk, you know what your problem is, Sly? Michael said sharply. You can't accept that your time is over. You cling to relevance, and when someone points it out, you lose control. Asterisk Stallone laughed, but without humor. My time is over. I've been relevant longer than you've been alive. I was making films that mattered while you were still figuring out which end of a football to hold. And I'll still be relevant long after people forget you ever existed. At least I know when to retire gracefully, Michael retorted. Gracefully? Is this your idea of grace attacking a guest here to promote their work? Because if this is graceful, I'd hate to see rude. Asterisk Michael slammed his hand on the desk, echoing across the studio. I'm not attacking you. I'm asking legitimate questions, and you're acting like a child who can't handle criticism. Asterisk, a child. Stallone roared back. A child is someone who thinks being handed a television show makes them important. A child is someone who confuses being loud with being right. A child is someone who can't tell the difference between journalism and bullying. Stallone's stare hardened as Michael insisted he was simply doing his job. Your job. Sly shot back, his voice sharp enough to cut the air. Your job is to make guests feel comfortable and have meaningful conversations. Your job is to serve your audience by getting interesting stories out of people. Your job is not to tear people down to make yourself look bigger. Asterisk, the words hit Michael directly where he was most vulnerable. His entire post-football career had been built on being the friendly, welcoming host who could talk to anyone. Being labeled a bully on his own show stabbed straight into the identity he'd cultivated for years. Asterisk, you don't get to come on my show and tell me how to do my job, he snapped. Asterisk, your show? Stallone raised his eyebrows. This isn't your show, Michael. This show belongs to the viewers. They're the ones who decide whether you're worth watching. And right now, they're watching you destroy your own credibility. Because you thought you could take a cheap shot at someone who's been in this business longer than you've been breathing. Michael's hands trembled as anger and embarrassment collided. You arrogant piece of he caught himself just before finishing the sentence. The near profanity hovering dangerously in the air. The realization of what he almost said on live morning TV made him freeze. His eyes darted to the cameras, then to the stunned crew. Then back to Stallone, who now looked at him almost with pity. Asterisk, go ahead, Michael, Stallone said quietly. Finish that thought. Show America what kind of man you really are when someone challenges you. Asterisk, the challenge hung between them like a lit fuse. Michael inhaled shakily, trying to gather the scraps of his composure. You don't know anything about me, he finally managed, voice quivering. You don't know what I've been through, what I've accomplished, what I've built here. Asterisk, what you've built. Stallone repeated, shaking his head with genuine disappointment. Michael, what you've built is about to come crashing down because you couldn't handle having a simple conversation with a guest. What you've built is so fragile that one person questioning your methods sends you into a meltdown on live television. Asterisk, the words hit him harder than the audience reaction ever could. Michael's shoulders slumped slightly as the reality of the moment began to set in. Around them, the entire studio was frozen, no one daring to intervene, no one even breathing loudly. The silence swallowed the room. Asterisk, I didn't start this, Michael said weakly, the conviction gone from his voice. You're the one who got defensive over a simple question. Asterisk, a simple question. Stallone stepped closer, commanding the space with sheer presence. Michael, you looked me in the eye and called my work desperate. You questioned my relevance, my judgment, my right to keep doing what I love. That wasn't journalism. That was a personal attack, and you know it. Asterisk, Michael clenched the edge of his desk so tightly his knuckles turned white. I was doing my job. asking the questions the viewers want answered. No, Stallone said firmly. You were asking the questions you thought would make you look important. There's a massive difference. And the fact that you can't see that tells me everything I need to know about what this show has become under your leadership. The word leadership hit Michael like a slap. His expression shifted confusion, anger, hurt before settling into something close to desperation. My leadership. I turned this show around. Ratings are higher than ever. I've interviewed presidents, celebrities, athletes. I've built something that matters. Have you? Stallone's voice dropped to a whisper, heavy with truth. Because from where I'm standing, what you've built is a platform for your ego. A place where you feel powerful by making other people feel small. Is that really what you're proud of? The question shattered something inside Michael. His polished broadcast facade broke completely, revealing a man suddenly confronted with uncomfortable truths. You don't understand the pressure I'm under, he whispered. Every day, I have to prove myself. Every interview has to be perfect. Every question has to land, or the network starts breathing down my neck. You don't know what it's like to have your entire career dependent on ratings and social media buzz. Stallone's expression softened, but his voice stayed steady. Michael, everyone in this business deals with pressure. The difference is in how you handle it. You can lift people up, create something meaningful, or you can use pressure as an excuse to tear others down. Today, you chose to tear down. I wasn't trying to tear you down, Michael said, though even he didn't seem to believe the words. I was just trying to get good television. Good television. Stallone gestured around the tent studio. Is this what you call good television? Two grown men shouting because one thought ambushing a guest was compelling content. Michael, this isn't good television. This is a train wreck, and you're the engineer. Michael flushed with embarrassment, the fight steadily draining from him. I've worked too hard to get here to let someone like you destroy it. Someone like me. Stallone raised an eyebrow. What exactly does that mean? Someone who's spent 50 years creating things people remember. Someone who knows the difference between entertainment and exploitation. Michael opened his mouth, then closed it again. The realization had settled fully now. He was losing this battle publicly. Painfully, and with millions watching, you know what the real tragedy is. Stallone continued, his tone almost paternal. You actually are talented. Charisma, presence. You connect with people. But somewhere along the way, you started believing that being provocative was the same thing as being good at your job. Those words seemed to wound Michael deeper than all the anger that came before. His eyes glistened with the threat of tears as he fought desperately to maintain control on live television. Michael swallowed hard, his voice cracking as he repeated, I just wanted to make good television. But the words no longer sounded like a defense. They sounded like a confession. I wanted to ask the questions that mattered. Then asked them with respect. Michael, Stallone replied, his tone firm but no longer explosive. Ask them with curiosity instead of malice. Ask them because you genuinely want to understand, not because you want to create conflict. That's the difference between a journalist and a shock jock. A heavy silence draped over the studio, weighted with everything that had just been said. Michael's hands trembled as he tried to process not only Stallone's words, but the magnitude of what had unfolded on live television. His career, his reputation, everything he'd built, felt as though it were hanging by a single fraying thread. I never wanted to be a shock jock, he whispered. For the first time since the interview began. His voice carried something real. Vulnerability instead of manufactured emotion. I wanted to be someone people respected. Asterisk then, be that person, Stallone said. But you can't demand respect while disrespecting others. It doesn't work that way. Not in this business. Not in life. Asterisk Michael glanced around the studio. His crew, his colleagues, even the stunned audience members' very face reflected the weight of what they'd witnessed. Their stares pressed down on him like a physical burden. Asterisk, how do I come back from this? He asked, though it seemed more like he was speaking to himself. Asterisk, you start by taking responsibility, Stallone answered. You stop making excuses. You admit that your ego drove this thing right off the rails. And then you decide honestly what kind of broadcaster you want to be from this moment forward. Asterisk, the brutal honesty in Stallone's words hung in the air like smoke. Every syllable rang true, and everyone in the studio knew it. Michael had been exposed to not just as a host who'd lost control, but as someone who had forgotten the simple, essential act of treating his guests with dignity. Asterisk, this wasn't supposed to happen, Michael murmured, shaking his head. This was supposed to be a simple promotional interview. Asterisk, it could have been, Stallone said. All you had to do was treat me like a human being instead of a target. All you had to do was remember that every guest sitting in that chair is a person with feelings, with dignity, with a lifetime of experiences worth respecting. Asterisk, the realization struck Michael with devastating clarity. He had completely misjudged the moment. What should have been routine had turned into a professional crisis, all because he'd prioritized spectacle over sincerity. The confident morning host who had started the segment had vanished, replaced by a man forced to confront the consequences of his own choices. Asterisk, you know what hurts the most? Michael whispered, his voice so soft the boom operators strained to pick it up. I used to be better than this. When I first got into broadcasting, I cared about telling stories. I cared about connecting with people. I don't know when that changed. Asterisk, Stallone's expression softened, the fiery anger slowly giving way to something almost compassionate. It changes when you start caring more about the reaction than the connection. It changes when you measure success by noise instead of value. Asterisk, but the noise gets attention, Michael said, his voice filled with a worn-out sadness. Controversy gets clicks. Heated moments go viral. That's what the network wants. That's what advertisers want. Sometimes it feels like respect is a luxury I can't afford. Asterisk, that's where you're wrong, Stallone said, stepping back toward his chair. Respect isn't a luxury, it's the foundation of this business. Without it, all the ratings and viral clips in the world won't save your soul. Asterisk, the word soul hit Michael like a blow. He sank into his chair, drained. Around them, crew members cautiously resumed their positions. Sensing the eruption was shifting into something quieter, more reflective. Asterisk, I've been so focused on competing, Michael admitted, rubbing his face with both hands. On staying relevant, on beating the other morning shows. I forgot why I wanted this job in the first place. Asterisk, you forgot that there are real people on the other side of these interviews, Stallone said. Real people with real feelings. Real people who trust you enough to sit here and share their stories. That's a sacred responsibility, Michael, and you've been treating it like a game. Asterisk, the word sacred felt oddly fitting, even in the bright artificial glow of a morning show set. Everyone understood. There was something sacred in the trust between a host and a guest, something fragile that had been shattered the moment Michael tried to turn the conversation into a spectacle. Asterisk, how do I fix this? Michael asked, desperation heavy in his voice. How do I come back after destroying my credibility on live television? Asterisk, you start by admitting what happened, Stallone said. Not to me. Not to your producers. To the people watching at home. Tell them the truth. Own your mistakes. Don't hide behind excuses. Asterisk, Michael turned toward the camera for the first time since the confrontation began. Every emotion he had been fighting, fear, shame, regret was visible on his face as he prepared to speak.